People know the video. People know Latasha's death. Nobody took the time to sit back and say, well, maybe we should go back and revisit some of these kids that was in this area. To us, her life is priceless, but at that moment, at that time, to the person that killed her, it was only worth $1.79.
A lot of time when other people lose someone, you know, you think about, you go in and try to comfort them, but then when it happened to me, then I know that racism still exists to this day.
This was like a bomb dropping on my front porch, you know, and how do you stay objective?
She could have been an A student, any of those things. And you're not allowed a mistake when you're a black kid. You're not allowed it.
When I think of childhood, I think of Latasha.
Back in the day, 91st, the whole neighborhood, from Mr. Orange to the twins down the street, everybody, the whole neighborhood was African American. Our next door neighbor was this man. He had yellow watermelon, and that's all I can remember is that yellow watermelon. Then our other next door neighbor, her name was Lulu. She watched her TV but put newspaper on it, just so she could hear it but not visualize it. Everybody knew everybody as far as the kids' sakes. You can go outside and play all day and don't worry about gun violence, or we just have fun. My grandmother let us be us, just as long as we be kids, and that's one thing I really enjoyed being a kid, because we were just kids with no problems or no worries. About 85 and up was dope years.
Years later, an incident happened where me and Latasha just connected. Once we connected, it was almost like she just wouldn't let me out of her sight. I went to the pool. I left early that morning. It was like younger guys that got into the pool. And I got in, and one came up in behind me and just dunked my head underneath the water, and he put all his weight on me. And I'm going underneath because I couldn't breathe. That was a horrible experience. There's nothing like trying to fight for fresh air, and you can't get it. You want it, but you can't get it. And the next thing I know, the pressure lifts up off of me. Even though I was under the water, I could still hear it in my ears. The one that was holding me down, she hit him the hardest, and she hit him first. And then she pulled me up out of the water and was like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And she still had her clothes on, and I'm looking at her getting all of the water out of my nose, out of my ears, and trying to wipe it from my eyes so I could, you know, see her clearly. And she walked me out over to the swings. She grabbed her towel from her brother and put it on me, and I'm thinking, you know, you need this towel because you still got your clothes on and you soaking wet. And she's like, "Ah, don't worry about me. I'm gonna be all right. I'll dry off, but they not gonna mess with you no more." Everybody has to have that somebody, a friend, a sister, somebody who understood what I was going through at certain times, but also somebody who I could come and discuss anything with. I don't care who you are, what you say you do. Everybody has a somebody. That was my somebody.
She had a beautiful personality. My household was Destin Rakoff, my grandson. Kristina Rakoff, my granddaughter. Jalise Harlins, my granddaughter. And Latasha Harlins. A lot of times I press her hair. At that time, when she was younger, I just put 3 plaits. But then later on, she would have her bang and sometimes a little ponytail, and sometimes plaited up 2 plaits. Next thing, she started doing all, fixing, combing the way she wanted combed.
She just had wisdom for her age, and I think it's because when her mother passed on, she had to feel the need to take her mother's spot, basically, and raise her brother and sister, help my grandmother raise them.
You're coming up, you're staying with your grandmother, you lost your mother, you have to be a parent to your siblings. Not necessarily have to be a parent, but she took that role upon herself to do that. So she started thinking, I guess, the way that her mother thought, or maybe she just was like, well, I have to prepare because she lost somebody at a very young age. So it pushed her to grow up quicker than me and Shanice. Me and Shanice, we were still kids. We were still in our kid mind frame, whereas this child had gone through a traumatic loss and somehow figured out, I need to compensate for this loss, but she wasn't necessarily doing it for herself. She was doing it for her siblings, and she was doing it for the people that she loved the most.
This past Sunday, a black man by the name of Rodney King was brutally beaten by 3 police officers at 12:53 a.m. You can see them as they beat him, kicked him, and clubbed him.
I have friends that were beat up by the cops and dropped off in rival gang neighborhoods. But that was the first time that somebody got it on camera. That was the first time that the world was introduced to what was going on in the hood.
Just the police brutality was something that was, a part of life here in South LA. The Korean community issue, while it was, at its height at the time Latasha was killed, it wasn't as deeply embedded or hadn't been going on as long as the issues with LAPD.
Pete's in the beginning was black owned. Pete sold his to some Koreans. So you had Pete's that became Korean owned, then the burger stand became Korean owned, then Empire Market was already Korean owned, then you got Irene Liquor who was Korean owned. So now everything from the burger spots to the liquor stores to the gas station was Korean owned. Yeah. So, but they feel at that time that they were entitled, shall I say. Soonja-do, she always had an attitude. But Irene, which was the liquor store, Mr. Lee was down the street from her. I would prefer to walk a little bit further because their attitude wasn't like that.
We didn't take the backpacks in the store. I would try to set it down because I knew that I didn't want to be suspicious to the shopkeeper. I didn't want them to think that I was stealing. I didn't want to have any potential issues around it. I would start to see and notice that the shopkeeper would be a little bit more gruff and hostile, less eye contact.
I remember her husband following us around the store a few times, like, you're gonna get what you get and you're gonna get out of the store. I remember them yelling at us a few times, you need to go home.
And I think some of us were starting to connect by 12, 13 years old, that there were people who would know us, who would put us down like we were dogs or something.
I walked with my mother to Empire Liquor Store. And I'm in the store with my mom, and she gets these Mars bars, and she gets 3 bars. Soon Jadu gave her the receipt. And as we're walking out of the store, my mother handed me the bag with the Mars bars and the receipt and the change in the bag. She said, Tybee, go back in the store. I forgot to get your brother a Mars bar. So I get the money from my mother, and I go in the store. I grab the Mars bar. I put it on the counter. And as I'm counting the change, this lady on the other aisle, she screams. And she's like, wait, hold on, no, stop, what you doing? Her mother outside, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna get her mother, just wait right there. I didn't pay attention, I heard her talking, but I didn't know that she was talking to Sunjandu. But when I'm counting the change and I'm thinking, okay, I got enough, as I look up, I'm looking down the barrel of a gun. And I'm frozen, and my mother comes into the store. And she said, we paid for that. The receipt is in the bag. I asked you for the receipt. We just stepped outside. So she puts the gun down. And thankfully, the other lady was in the store, because had she not been in that store, I don't know what that lady would have done. She probably would have pulled the trigger. But again, the kids got used to her doing that.
Everybody's not the same. It's some African American go to the store and they don't be stealing, they just go there to purchase their food and come on out. But sometimes a person think they have a negative attitude. They think that all black folks is the same, but that's not true.
I get home and I'm like, well, Latasha, my mama said that we can't go back to that store. And she was like, you go back to that store, you know, I won't let you go by yourself. You know, you'll be with me. And I'm looking at Tasha like, you probably shouldn't go back in there. Told her that, and she's like, I'll be all right. That scared me. That really scared me.
I heard someone say somebody just got killed up there at Empire Store. I said, got killed? I said, I wonder who was it?
Latasha got some orange juice out of the cabinet, and she put it on the side of her backpack, and she walked towards the counter, and Sunjandu was behind the counter, and she immediately grabbed the backpack and pulled her, and I guess she was trying to get at the bottle of orange juice. She assumed that she was trying to steal it, but Latasha had the money in her hand, and there was a chair thrown, and Latasha put the orange juice down.
Every time I would see it, I'm like, I know exactly what Latasha is thinking, because I've been there when she's done it. She like, I ain't about to fight with this lady no more. I was taught never to disrespect my elders, so before I get taken too far out of my character, let me just turn around and just walk away from the situation. And she's turning, and she's walking away, and the lady pulls the trigger.
There was so much going on, and as I try to even recreate it now, it was jarring for the fact that there was video of the moments before, and to watch her get shot every time. They just showed that to us every goddamn day.
I was devastated, you know, and everything. I was just, I just grieving. I was hurt. My granddaughter.
That was the day when she shot that gun at her. The only thing in my mind after watching that video was, I told her not to go back. It could have been prevented. I told her, don't go. Yeah.
The verdict was outrageous. With Sunjandu being convicted but getting probation is, you know, how do you get probation for murder and for murdering a child? Everybody was devastated and upset. The LAPD trial was still going on, and I remember discussions where people were saying, okay, we're gonna see what's gonna happen with Rodney. You know, everybody just felt like that was a clear-cut case. You know, the police had to be convicted. And I find it interesting because Latasha was killed. You know, Rodney was beaten horrifically, but he survived. And yet, he was the bigger picture.
Yes, Rodney King was just as important. But let's go back to the child that turned on the gas. Rodney King was the match. And that's why LA burned.
I remember a lady at Florence and Normandy, when I asked her, you know, why they reacted the way they did, she said, people are mad, baby. I remember driving down Normandy. I was literally driving through a wall of flame on both sides. National Guard out there with AK-47s, dead bodies in front yards, tanks, and places where I had fond memories were now being burned down. Tears just started rolling down my face. I always wanted to be a war correspondent, but I never thought it would be at home.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
When she closed her eyes, it went with her. So did my childhood, so did Shanice's childhood and her brother's, her sister's childhood. That bullet flew, and our childhood flew with it.
I heard that you was brilliant, one of the strongest we've seen. You lasted in South Central way longer than me. When I visit your city, I try my best to avoid the blue line for fear of red and blue crimes. Do justice come in due time? They aborted the due process and the Mrs. Due, all because of Joyce Carlin don't care for Latasha Harlins. Two minorities, you was the rather dark one, so then she placed priority on Mrs. Due's pardon, solidifying two communities as enemies, a prime example of court-ordered white supremacy. I'm taking offenses if you was some close kin to me, cause if the races were reversed, there'd be no chance for clemency. Nowadays, we love to praise the ratchet rappers and chicken sandwiches, pander to the media, highlighting our disadvantages. When we see injustice, hope to be the first with a camera, a chance of going viral for any reason is oh so glamorous. Latasha, your death was not in vain, cause almost 30 years later, this brother can feel your pain. To your community, your family, your cultural kinfolk, I dedicate this letter to LA's little gizmo. 91, baby girl, gone way too soon. The city's the candle that we burn for you, burn for you, burn for you. One more time for the 91, baby girl, gone way too soon. The city's the candle that we burn for you, burn for you.